A beautiful Thursday morning, and of course, it's my pleasure to welcome you to the continuation of your news and current affairs program, reaching you live from our Lagos studios on the ITV network. I am Joshua Okata. On the program today, our focus will be drawn to the second anniversary of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration, and of course, governance impact and the reactions from Nigerians. This is coming against the background where the president, who was heavily represented by the Minister of Information and Orientation in the person of Mohammed Idris, making statement at the presentation of the autobiography of Malam Sule Lamido, where Nigerians came heavily in their reaction to the minister. Of course, to have this conversation with me this morning, I'm being joined by my guest in the person of Bolaji Shote. She is a social affairs analyst joining us virtually from Aja, Lagos. Good morning, Mrs. Bolaji, and thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning, and how are you today?
Very
It's
well,
great to be
thank you.
here.
Yeah, same here. Now, let's get into the crux of the matter. We're looking at the statement made by the Minister of Information and Orientation in the person of Mohammed Idris at the presentation of the autobiography of Malam Sule Lamido. Now, the statement made by this minister came with a lot of backlash because it seems as if though it was merely to excite those who were in attendance of such event. But realistically speaking, it was vague and lacked direction, talking about the tangible gains the president has made in his administration. Now, let's look at the issues raised. The minister made statements like the president, in his person, welcomes constructive criticism, especially when it is directed in the spirit of freedom of speech and democratic engagement. Now, my question to you is how is the president, in his person, an individual who welcomes constructive criticism? Now, what does it do with the criticism that Nigerians make, giving into cognizance the fact that Nigerians for long has been calling on the issue of cutting the cost of governance, considering the fact that the nation, as it were, is bleeding. We are not producing anything, as it were, after crude oil. So how much is left when we've got to service our debt, and also what is left for us when it comes to critical infrastructures? We see the president accepting it, as it were, but what does it do with the criticism? Looking at the way he goes about making procurement. We just talked about issue about cutting the cost of governance. Has he been able to implement the Oronsoya's report? That's one. Two, the president just recently acquired a very expensive vehicle that has been added to his fleet. I'm talking about the Cadillac Escalade that is worth the sum of 995 million. That's like 5 million short of 1 billion. Talking about a country that has nothing when it comes to production, and yet the government's expenditure is almost hitting the roof. What would you say about the issue of accepting criticism and working on it?
All right, thank you very much. Even for me, I strongly believe that government needs to demonstrate to the public that they are committed to making the lives of people a lot better. And, nobody is going to see whatever the government is doing if it cannot impact the lives of the common man in walking on the road, on the streets. Or the people who are like the downtrodden, the least of the least in the society. We know how the cost of even food, people can merely afford to eat their daily meal. The high rate of begging, the high rate of crime, and all of those kind of things, banditry, kidnapping, and the rest of them. People are living in fear, fear of going out of their homes, of going out to carry out their daily work, just because of fear. And I think one of the things further that has further driven that is that people cannot really see what the government is doing in that area. I was telling someone yesterday, and I'm going to say that as well. The is it the social media bill or something about things that you cannot do on social media, or things that are acceptable or not acceptable on social media. So, and I we were having a conversation saying that for me, what I believe that government should start doing is to have a campaign where people can actually, and there's a way to monitor and see the impact of the government initiative that is going on. There is no way people are going to see if on social media what dominates it is all the negative things that are going on, and they can't see that commitment from the side of the government. Um, Especially towards the common man. And when I say towards the common man, people who cannot um, read or write or even have access to social media, people that they are the people that are the most affected in all of what we're talking about. And for me, I think that is really more of governance. When the lowest people in the society, when they cannot feel the impact of what the government is doing, then it becomes that's what gets eventually, which is the backlash where people are saying, "Oh, what exactly are they saying about the government's impact and reaction?" Majorly, I think if there is anything government can do, or I would advise, is for them to increase capex, which is going to improve productivity. The productivity in Nigeria is quite low. We're dependent on import rather than we should be exporting, and and the only way we can export is when there is a lot more productivity in the country,
Okay,
and
now
that
you're
can
talking
only
about
happen if the infrastructures are there. All right.
you talked about productivity, improving productivity.
Yes.
That brings me to my next question, which the minister in his statement kind of hit on. Now, the question now I'm going to ask you is that the minister in his statement made mention of the fact that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has demonstrated uncommon audacity and vision to set Nigeria on the path of growth and development. While he was making that statement a few days back, just a few days after he made that statement, 4 military bases were under attack by ISWAP. Now, talking about the issue of enhancing or improving our productivity, how would a nation improve on its productivity when businesses and lives are not secure? I'm talking about 4 military bases under the attack of ISWAP. What person in his right mind would take his investment to a country where such investment is under the threat of Boko Haram and all sorts of criminal gangs? That's my question to you.
All right. I think I just read something yesterday. It was about saying that the government wants to start something about the um, forest guard or something, who are going to guard the Nigerian forest, which is about 1,500 and something forests that we have in Nigeria. And I mean, putting up that security measures majorly for protecting our forests, which in turn would, one, create jobs, and secondly would also help to minimize the attack on people who are trying to make their gains from the farms. A lot of farmers have been displaced, which I think also has an impact on the skyrocketing prices of goods. People can't go to their farm. Every day we're hearing of killings from Benue State to Plateau, all over the nation. It's quite sad for people when you um, think about it and you are able to just look at what is going on. I think one of the things that government can do is you first need to equip the people that are going to um, go and fight this menace that we have, the bandits, the kidnappers, the the terrorists, and the rest of them. Government needs to do something in that area to equip the people who are going to, you know, be able to fight them. Let me say this: it's quite worrisome. Military bases are being affected. What is the hope for the common man? And that's the question people will be asking: that if military bases can be affected or can be attacked, what happens to the rest of the society? The military is like the top people who can protect the society. And if the military is having this kind of situation, I mean, it's quite scary for every other person. And that's one of the areas, because when people are secure, then people can, you know, go and do their work that they need to do, and from there productivity can improve. People can go about their daily life not worried, being able to wake up in the morning, go to their farms, go to their schools, go to do their handwork, go to their offices, knowing fully well that they are safe and there is security. There is no way Nigeria can get foreign investment. Nobody's going to come and invest in a country that is highly insecure. I was reading an article about somebody who made an analysis of 10 wealthy African countries, and using the parameter of where you can go do business, go for tourism, go for all of those things. And Nigeria sadly was not among the top 10 lists. Ghana was there. Ghana was there. Nigeria was not there. And that was quite sad, because with the level of exposure that we have and the resources that we have as a nation, we should not, we should be on that list. But I think one of the things that was used as a parameter was security. And that was not, they said Nigeria does not have that parameter. Every day people are living in fear, living in fear of going out, living in fear of traveling, living in fear of going to do their business, living in fear of earning their daily living, which would impact productivity and, eventually lead to attraction of foreign investment. But if that is not being done, there is no way people will want to invest in Nigeria. There's no way, if they come and they see those things, they're going to go away. Even Nigerians are living every day. Everybody, if you go on social media, people are looking for how they want to live Nigeria. And it's so sad that Nigerians are even living for places that are not even, I will put, for me, that don't have the kind of opportunities that Nigeria can provide for them. But what do they tell you? They tell you, oh, if I'm just safe, it's okay for me. If I'm just safe, I'm not afraid that nobody's going to kidnap me and ask me for ransom. If I'm safe, that I can go about my daily life, that I'm very sure that I don't even have to earn much. I don't have to earn much. I just want to be safe. And for that, government needs to be committed to the safety and security of lives and property of the people in Nigeria. Like these incidents that you've spoken about, there should be tough measures taken to say we will not. Government should invest more in security and not investing to be siphoned.
All right.
Investment that we can actually see, especially using technology that can be used in finding out all of these anomalies that are going on. Thank you.
All right, now let's talk about the issue that you raised, which struck a chord in me. You talked about the hope of the common man. Do we actually have hope? Especially looking at it from the angle of the average man. Now, the minister made mention of certain issues which he gave an excuse of. First, he talked about the issue of encountering somewhat rocky start, given the fact that we might be having some toughness in reforms and policy that the government, is churning out. Now, each time people talk about the hopelessness that is very, very glaring, there is somewhat a diversion from the angle of government talking about revenue generation. This government tends to be big when it comes to talking about revenue generation. But if you put it side by side with what we call the Human Development Index, the HDI, would you say reasonably that we are anything close to a developing nation when we talk too much about revenue generation, but it is not commensurate with the Human Development Index? I'll give you an example. When we talk about Human Development Index, we have three major dimensions that is used in measuring it. One is our health sector. Second, the educational sector. The third is the quality of the cost of living of an average man. Can you tell me what basically this government can be proud of when it comes to the health sector or the educational system, which we just saw a few days ago, where the level of the educational rot has been so low to the point that 1 million plus candidates sat for an exam. 420,000 candidates scored above 200, which is the cut-off mark. What would you say, putting side by side with the revenue generation that this government has been so big about, putting it side by side with our HDI? What can you say about that?
All right. So for me, what I can say about this Human Development Index is that there needs to be total commitment. And when I say commitment, the government needs to commit its funds to these three areas that they have typically mentioned: education, health. Those are really at the cost of the standard of living of people generally. What we could buy, we were saying something, and I would say that how can cars, things that you own, how can they be appreciating if not for the rate of inflation? The car you bought at maybe 2 million 5 years ago, that same car cost 10 million today. I think, I mean, so even when people are earning, and I say that to, as an HR consultant, I say that to people. So people, the cost of living is so high and the standard of living is still so low. You are buying little with much, and that does not impact a lot of people's lives in positively. People can't even feed. Even to eat one meal per day is a problem for most families. People are more in abject poverty now than they've ever been in their lives, and I don't think that is any government should take um, a tactical approach to solve the issue of extreme poverty and hardship. People are crying every day. The common man is going through a lot. And you can see what has happened in the educational sectors. What is the hope for our universities? Most of them are ill equipped. Some of the courses that they're even teaching people, maybe they are no longer relevant. Considering the advent of technology, AI, robotics, and the rest of them. I was a bit happy when I read about there's a program that government wants to start to train people in handwork, like to be an artisan, maybe a construction site worker, and all of those kind of things. I actually do hope that this program really goes down to impact the people um, that is meant to impact. I think that's the major challenge we have as a country. So what the government can do, what this administration can do, is to ensure that the people whom these programs, whom these policies are meant to impact, it actually impacts them. Not that you just talk about it, you talk about it, and there's no way to measure how many people that we can they can be verified. And one of the ways that it will help the government needs to be data driven, data driven, so that when you are data driven, you're using those data to actually be able to know, okay, how many people that would we say we're going to do, can they be verified? How many people were eventually you know impacted with this program? That is the only way government can know how it's performing very well. The health
You just
sector.
raised a very important issue. You talked about the government needs to be data driven. There is a video,
Yes.
a viral video circulating the social media where before the president was inaugurated, he made a statement, a very ridiculous statement where a lot of people around him laughed about it, where he said, now data will go chop, now statistics will go chop. A president who fails to understand that you plan for the people by virtue of the information, the data you have, how do you think such government will be able to fare when it comes to governance? I give you an example. Lagos State today is not just a city or a state. It's one of the biggest cities in sub-Saharan Africa. Are you aware that there are certain persons who used the bridges, under the bridges, as a place of abode and pay as much as 250,000 to 300, just what they call a rent under the bridges? What would you say about a state as big as Lagos when they do not have the exact data as regards those who are living in abject poverty? Taking, for instance, those living under the bridges.
All right. I think this matter of data is as important as almost the air that we breathe. Because I live in Lagos, and I know every day the things that I see on the streets of Lagos. There are so many children running after cars and all that. They don't have jobs. They begging is what they do. And the question I keep asking is, what is the government doing about those things? my let's say, let me also say, some people will say, oh, the government cannot do everything, but let's even start from somewhere. I saw something again last week, which in a way, the only thing is, how committed are they to seeing these things come to an end? We know a government in Lagos at some point who changed the face of what people said cannot be done. A place where people sleep under the whole place, and the place was is a no-go area just because of safety and security. And we remember what that particular government did to change the. In fact, some people that I knew who had not come to Nigeria and came after some government came to Lagos. I'm talking about Oshodi of before. They were like, this cannot be Oshodi. I think it's a commitment, it's a call to good governance from government, and not just government alone, for everybody in leadership to realize that what we don't address today is going to come back to bite anybody, and we don't know who it would bite at the end of the day. And let me give you a typical example. This is not the only one that you see. I'm happy that I'm able to share this. I was training at Apapa, and I passed through, was it Orile or something? And in broad daylight, I saw something that broke my heart. I started crying. These people are renting and paying. Maybe so they have where they go to for their daily work and come and do this, which is bad enough. But these particular ones, in the hot afternoon, able-bodied men were sitting under like they were all sleeping in the afternoon. And idle hand is the devil's workshop. These are the people who become restless. They have nothing to lose. They are not looking forward to anything in life. Government needs to take all these kind of people and begin to do something about them. Honestly, I don't have all the answers, but I'm wondering. We have arable land. We are so blessed as a nation. talk about resources, talk about anything. But yet, what is the hope for the common man? What is the hope for the young people?
All
And
right.
Nigeria, let me also state, Nigeria has one of the largest population of young people in the world, which means that our productivity can actually improve depending on how it is managed. And
All
that is
right.
what I hope that the government.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Bolaji Shote, social affairs analyst, for sharing your perspective, with us on the show this morning. We are really pressed for time, so we might not be able to take so much of your submission, but we really appreciate the ones you have given us thus far. Thank you once again for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right. Well, that's our offering for you right from our Lagos Network studios.